Captain Midnight.
Hey, remember this? I enjoyed this scene. It was a pretty creative, exciting chase. There's just one problem. This isn't really supposed to happen. Same goes for this. They're the kind of moments that make a hardcore Spider-Man fan pause for a second and go, hey, wait a minute, that's not right. Or is it? Well, it's a long story, but I'm going to try to do my best to answer a question that's bothered fans for a while now. Does Tom Holland's Spider-Man have SpiderSense? I'm going to try to take a deep dive into this question, but first, be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Oh, and there's maybe going to be some light Homecoming spoilers in this video, so, just be warned. So I think the reason that the seeming lack of SpiderSense stood out to so many people is because the older films, especially the early Raimi ones, really highlighted the SpiderSense and devoted entire sequences to it. It was almost like Maguire's Peter Parker had the ability to not just see what was about to attack him, but could kind of slow down time. Now, I understand that this was just sort of a cinematic device. We aren't supposed to think that Peter is actually making time move slower or anything. But the point is, it placed a ton of emphasis on how important his SpiderSense was. According to the screenwriters of Homecoming, they intentionally avoided doing too much with the SpiderSense because they felt it had been explored so thoroughly in the past movies. The idea was, again, just you want to make this movie be less about things you've already seen before. And you've definitely already seen a SpiderSense sequence done extremely well in Mark and Raimi's movies. That's all well and good, I guess, but there's also an element of Marvel trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like, okay, one potential solution is that this Spider-Man doesn't have an innate SpiderSense, but has a different, more artificial version of it in the form of his suit's AI, Karen. This would make sense at least, but Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, has definitively shot this down. When he was asked by IGN if Peter's SpiderSense is missing in this movie, he said, "No, I think he has it, and I think he has it with or without that suit. I think how we explore it in a cinematic sense will change." Okay, so you can't say that this version of Peter Parker's SpiderSense is part of his suit, which I think is good actually, because I don't really like that idea. But where does that leave us? Well, honestly, with a whole bunch of wishy-washy answers from the Homecoming creative team on if he has the senses or not. Because, let's face it, the movie didn't really explore it in a new cinematic sense at all. But maybe, by looking to the comics, we can see if we can explain this. If you're going strictly from early Spider-Man comics, the SpiderSense is definitely non-existent in Homecoming. Because back then, Peter's SpiderSenses could kind of do anything the writers wanted him to do. Like, check out this panel, where Spider-Man is just jumping around New York and using his SpiderSense to detect the Vulture. Here, just being in the mere presence of a bad guy would apparently set it off. Now, there's been some writers who've wanted to write around this for the sake of their stories, and they use the excuse that when Peter is extremely stressed or tired, his senses just didn't work as well. I mean, that could work as an excuse for how Vulture and Shocker were able to get the drop on him. Are we calling him Shocker? Other Shocker? Shocker Jr.? Anyway, but come on, even this is pretty iffy. I mean, in 1975's Amazing Spider-Man 141, Spider-Man is so tired that he drives the Spider-Mobile, which, yes, was a thing, into a river, and then he falls asleep in class. But when he's attacked by a guy who's pretending to be Mysterio, his SpiderSense not only works well, it even works when Peter appears to be unconscious. This is the problem with fans demanding things be just like the comics. Imagine I'm doing little finger quotation marks there. Because the comics have passed through countless writers and interpretations through the years. So in some comics you'll have a Spider-Man with kind of a minimal spider sense, and in others you have a Peter Parker who can track his spider tracers with it. Like, what? But that's not a very satisfying answer, is it? We want something straightforward. Does the Tom Holland Peter Parker have spider sense or not? Well, based off his appearance in Civil War, and the one solo film we have to go off of, I'd have to answer no. I know Kevin Feige says he does, and maybe he will in future movies, and they'll play it off like he just gained it with more experience or something. But as it stands now, I just don't see it. Villains get the drop on him in Homecoming in a way that, unless you're Venom, Carnage, or a clone of Peter Parker, you really shouldn't be able to do. And the big nerd in me kind of wishes they had addressed this. They didn't need to make a big deal out of SpiderSense, just let us know it's there somehow. Like, take this scene from Spider-Man 3. And yes, I realize I'm using Spider-Man 3 as a positive example of something. I promise, though, that it's just this once. When Harry tosses a pumpkin bomb at Peter, played here by the lead singer of Fall Out Boy, he immediately senses it and reacts accordingly. Nothing fancy or showy like the Flash Thompson sequence in Spider-Man 1, but if you're familiar with the character, you know that his senses gave him the ability to do that.
One base unit that plugs into your TV, then strap on the high-tech hand and leg sensors and prepare.
Now, obviously, I don't think the lack of SpiderSense in Homecoming ruins the movie or anything. I think that'd be a pretty ridiculous thing to say. But did it irk me a little bit as a fan? Yeah, I guess so. But since Homecoming has come out, hopefully Marvel won't be as terrified to use elements from the past films, now that they've successfully forged their own path. It's a small detail, sure, but it feels like an odd misstep in an otherwise great reimagining of the character. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Peter Parker has SpiderSense in Homecoming? And do you think they should go out of their way to show us more of it in the future? Let me know in the comments below. Well, that is it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, and if you want to listen to a podcast interview I did with the great podcast Friday 15, check the description. It should be up in the next day or two, or just search for it wherever you find podcasts. It's a great show. You should listen to it.